Grab a cup of coffee and start your Sunday with Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Every Sunday morning at 9 on the Talk of New York, AM 970, The Apple. Visit cyacyl.com.
Good morning, this is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest, William Joyce, is an Emmy Award winner, author, and creator of numerous characters for animated films like Toy Story and A Bug's Life. In addition to being a recognized figure in the world of children's literature and animated films, William's illustrations have appeared numerous times on the cover of The New Yorker, and his paintings are displayed at museums and art galleries across the nation. William's new children's book is entitled The Man on the Moon. Good morning, William. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Joan.
You know, William, for anyone who is even remotely familiar with children's literature or animated films, they are definitely familiar with your work, whether they know it or not. And the list of your credentials, it's very impressive. I mean, you've been involved in Toy Story and A Bug's Life, Robots, Meet the Robinsons. The list goes on and on. How did your career begin? I mean, I read that you wrote your first book when you were in fourth grade. And how did it progress from that point? And what happened to that book?
Well, fourth grade, I wrote a biographical piece called Billy's Booger, but it definitely started my career in a strange way. It was done entirely in green crayon, and it was about a kid who got hit in the head with a meteorite, and his boogers got superpowers. But Billy, like myself, was bad at math, and the boogers were very good at math, and so in between fighting crime, they were always helping Billy with his math homework. And it got me sent to the principal's office. I had to promise not to draw boogers in school anymore, but I learned something very interesting that was sort of a catalyst there. My peers, my fellow fourth graders, thought it was great and hysterical, thought that Billy was really fun. But teachers and authority figures like the principal found it alarming. I was like, this is really interesting. All I did was draw some pictures and make up a goofy little story, and I stirred everything up. And I sort of liked that sense of unexpected power. Mm-hmm. So the book is actually, it's going to come out in about a couple of years. And then I went to film school, I got out of college, but I wanted to do children's books, and so miraculously I got a contract to do that very thing, and I guess I've done like 50 children's books now, and it's been a delightful way to make a living and a wonderful career. I mean, I get paid for daydreaming, basically, and though it's hard work, I don't want to make it sound like I just goof off, but it's the funnest stuff you could possibly do. And then back in the late 80s, early 90s, some movie producers saw my books and liked them, and one of them being John Lasseter at Pixar, and he asked me to work on Toy Story, on a new kind of animation he described to me on the phone, computer animation, and I always liked new stuff, so I started working on doing design work for Toy Story, and learned a lot about this new wonderful art form. And so I started doing a lot of animation after that. What I do, writing and illustrating is kind of a singular, solitary endeavor, and suddenly I was thrust into this atmosphere, this hothouse atmosphere of creativity of making a movie, and it's very heady and great fun, and you work with amazingly talented people. So it became something that I began to lead, kind of two lives, my literary life and then this film life, this animation life. And I guess now I'm working on a film based on this new series, The Man on the Moon, that will come out from DreamWorks next year. And it's been a delight to do.
And some of the voices that are involved in that project, Alec Baldwin, Hugh Jackman, Jude Law, and Chris Pine, what is it like for you when you have this creative vision to bring it to talent like that? How involved are you with that process?
Early on, they had me make what they call inspiration reels of what the characters would be like. So it was looking through old movies and finding clips of actors and performances that evoked the character that we were trying to build. I mean, in animation, you basically build your characters from nothing. I mean, it's a lot like illustrating. And you start with a blank sheet of paper when you're designing a character for a book. You start with a blank screen when you're designing a character for a movie. But you have to imagine what they act like and what they sound like. So it was really fun to sit down and what is Jack Frost like? What is Santa Claus like? I used a lot of clips of Sean Connery for Santa Claus and Alec Baldwin, and we sat down and listened to his voice and some of his performances, particularly on Saturday Night Live, and we're like, he would make a great Santa. And in fact, he's magnificent. I mean, he's just this swashbuckling, hilarious, bigger-than-life fella, the way I'd always imagined Santa to be. And somewhat with an edge, because, I mean, Santa judges you, and he's not a pushover. I mean, he has to battle constantly the boogeyman, whose real name is Pitch. And so you can't be a pushover if you're going to have that kind of villainy to deal with. And Alec Baldwin is no pushover, so. And he matches up beautifully with Jude Law, who plays the boogeyman, Pitch. He has this velvety kind of sinister quality that's very alluring. I mean, I've always found that the best villains are ones that you kind of can't take your eyes off of, that they enjoy being the villain and think that they're the smartest guys in the room and that what they're doing is absolutely right. And Jude Law pulls that off magnificently. It's really fun. That's kind of the process in a way.
And what comes first? Do you cast the part and then you create the illustration of the character based on the voice of the actor, or is it vice versa?
Vice versa. I mean, in some cases, so many of the references that I use are actors that are long gone. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, Sean Connery is still around, and in fact, it would have been wonderful to use him, but he's retired now, or semi-retired. And, like for Jack Frost, we used as a reference, right, picked out as a reference, James Dean. Jack Frost is eternally frozen at a young adolescent age, and so I was like, I wanted to be very contained and confident, but a little bit sad, and so it was fun to look at James Dean and sort of find that quality of performance and cast Chris Pine, who is able to channel that very, very, very nicely.
Do you think that creativity is something that we're born with? Is it a gift, or is it something that we're able to cultivate?
I think it's both. I mean, there's a famous story from an editor at Harper and Row, it was called back then, where she would ask a room full of 5-year-olds, who in this classroom can sing? And everybody would raise their hand. Who in this classroom can draw? And everybody would raise their hands. And who in this classroom can dance? And everybody would raise their hands. And then doing the same 3 questions in successive grades, going older. You know, by the time she got to 2nd grade, who in this classroom can draw? And like half the people raised their hands. Who in this classroom can dance? And same thing. And the same thing for sing. By the time she got to 5th graders, it was like almost no one would raise their hands. And she's like, so how did they unlearn? They knew how to do it when they're 5, and they don't when they're in the 5th grade. And it's that it wasn't encouraged. Mm-hmm. And so you have to encourage it. You have to keep that alive, or it starts to seem odd, and you become embarrassed, you know, at saying that you're going to do that. Luckily, growing up, I was encouraged. You know, I started drawing early on. They always said I was born with a pencil in my hand. Mm-hmm. And a little, like, hysterical and painful, but anyway. But my parents and my family and then the community, you know, all encouraged me all along the way. So I never was embarrassed to raise my hand about that. I know, singing and dancing now. But so, in answer to your question, it's both.
What keeps going through my mind is earlier in the interview you spoke about when you wrote that first book, it changed everything because it stirred up so much trouble that people thought you were a little odd at that point, and maybe we are stifling the creativity in our children. As you're saying, it's very important to encourage them. And I think that's something that our listeners should heed and pay attention to, that you shouldn't shut someone down when they're being creative. You need to nurture it and encourage it, because just look at the career you've had. You never know where it can take a person.
Well, you know, you never know where it can get derailed, too. I mean, it was a gentle sort of, you know, trouble that I got in the 4th grade. And the great thing was, I mean, my fellow students thought it was great. And my parents, backed me up on this one. They're like, you shouldn't worry, principal, about these boogers. You should see what he draws at home. And, it was, they didn't show him the picture of I draw it of me hiding in the toilet, shooting my sister in the bottom with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, today you would be in a psychologist's office or something for doing that. We weren't as concerned when we were growing up.
You gotta encourage those things, and any step along the way can make or break sort of a path for life. So I was lucky in that regard, and I spend a lot of time, when I go to schools and things like that, encouraging finding the inner creative. The thing is, right now, and it's like no time in history, creativity is needed. It's the one of the few things that America doesn't export or doesn't farm out to other countries. I mean, our imaginations, the creative force in America is something that's been lighting up the world for a very long time. And so there's something powerful going on in this country that leads, even with all the difficulties of being a creative person, especially as a kid, that shines through. And there's more need for it now than there's ever been. I mean, there's so much the media now. This explosion of media needs content, and that means it needs creative people. And so those creative people have to be encouraged. And so it's not weird to want to create now. It's cool. And I'm starting to see a real difference in schools and in the culture that in a lot of places, art and theater and film and all sorts of things like that, sculpting, painting, are encouraged more. And especially in high schools, I find there's a lot of stuff going on in high schools where kids are given the opportunity to work in film and work in computer media now that has given them a leg up.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're so adaptive and they're so smart and they can be so committed at an early age. I mean, many of the animators I work with are really young and incredibly talented and adept because they've been pursuing this for a while. With the internet, you're able to find all sorts of information about, your chosen creative field that was a lot harder to find when I was growing up. But now it's, right there at your computer, at beck and call. So one of my best animators was 16 years old. This kid from Minneapolis. And he's like the Mozart of animation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's remarkable to me, the possibilities right now. And it just takes a little encouragement, and these kids are going to fly. They're going to be able to make a living at it.
What you're talking about now, encouraging our children, and the message behind the Guardians of Childhood series, protecting the dreams of our children, is that the message that you want to convey through this series and your book?
Yeah, in a very subtle way. I mean, I started this series when we first had children, and I was like, gee, I got to tell my kids about Santa Claus and the Man in the Moon and Jack Frost and Sandman and all those guys. And I realized that I didn't really know that much, and that there wasn't that much to tell. There wasn't like a mythology, and I thought that was really odd. I mean, we have a mythology for Superman and Batman and the Green Lantern and all those guys, and yet the one group of fellas that we grew up actually believing in, we have no unified mythology for. So I was like, it seems lame to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I set about kind of beginning to build that, and it became unexpectedly, in a weird way, my life's work. I've been working on it for almost 20 years. As it got much bigger than I expected. I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, these guys, the Man in the Moon and Sandman and Jack Frost, I mean, I'm not hearing about them that much. I feel like they're fading a little bit from the cultural, landscape, and that's a shame. So I want to bring them back. And in my mind, I thought back as what it was like as a kid to imagine them. I'm like, they need to be, great, heroic, magnificent beings, that their stories are so big in a way. I mean, there's planets that they, command and lord over and protect. So it got this kind of mythological quality to what I was thinking about, and a little bit operatic in that, I mean, opera, a child's daily life is like opera. I mean, nothing small. Mm-hmm. In their experience. I mean, if you skin your knee, it's the worst thing that ever happened. If you drop your popsicle, it's the end of the world. So I was like, these guys need to have a big, grand, heroic backstory. And the man in the moon is up there. I mean, he's ruling an entire moon, and that's a big deal. And so it got more and more involved and deeper and more complicated in a strange way. But the one thing that I was settled on from the beginning is that they are great and heroic, and that the man in the moon is the first one. That, he comes to Earth, or comes near Earth, and he's the first guy to experience evil in the form of the boogeyman, and who is a much more potent villain than we realize. He decides that the children of Earth need his protection, but he can't do it alone, so he looks for some fellas and women to help him out, and he finds the Sandman, and he finds Santa Claus, and he finds Jack Frost, and he finds the Easter Bunny, whose real name is E. Aster Bunnymund, and Mother Goose, and even Mother Nature ends up eventually coming into it, Father Time. And he's like, you guys, we have to protect the children of Earth, from the boogeyman, from the corrosive force of this guy who wants to just bring fear into the world and make children fearful. And so they're waging these titanic battles with this guy in between doing their holiday work, and there's the day-to-day fighting of pitch to do. But they have amassed not these quaint little villages and quaint little ways of doing Easter or doing Christmas. They have these vast, beautiful empires of whimsy that are devoted to keeping the sort of spirit of childhood, the sense of wonder and hope alive. So it took me forever to get this thing kind of settled and set, and it's now just the last couple of years that it's been coming together for me, and The Man in the Moon, is hitting bookstores this week, and is the beginning of all that.
William, we're going to take a break for this week's Healthy Living Tip. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Eric Murphy, part owner and head trainer at Pearl Personal Training in Little Falls, New Jersey. Guess what? It's that time of year. It's time to give back to yourself. It's time you make that commitment you've been thinking of for a long time but never acted on. Summer is over and school has begun. The time is now and the place is Pearl. Let the qualified training staff at Pearl Personal Training guide you every step of the way. Pearl provides one-on-one personal training programs, small group training, nutritional guidance, and last but certainly not least, high-tech kinesis training technology. Kinesis training is second to none in muscle definition, core strength, flexibility, balance, and weight loss. This is no gimmick. Call today and take advantage of our free trial session, 973-837-8202. Also visit our website at www.pearlpersonaltraining.com. It's about time you felt the benefits of exercise. All you have to do is pick up the phone. I personally guarantee you will not be disappointed. Pearl Personal Training takes pride in your success.
Change your attitude, change your life, and big, believe, inspire, grow. Salute the entrepreneurial spirit of small business owners, people who follow a dream, work hard, and make it happen. This week's Spotlight is on Virtual Memories. Virtual Memories specializes in transforming your photos into a unique and dramatic DVD keepsake. Your photo slides and video clips are choreographed to your favorite music using beautiful transitions, special effects, and motion, which creates a heartwarming video production. Your Virtual Memory is delivered on a personalized custom-labeled DVD, making it a lasting keepsake and a unique and personal gift for family and friends, even for yourself. It can be enjoyed again and again. Perfect for anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, retirements, vacations, and sports photos too. For more information and to view sample videos, visit www.virtualmemoriesdvd.com or call 908-520-2264.
Health insurance costs have risen at an alarming rate. At the same time, coverage choices have narrowed. Supplemental insurance provides an employer with the opportunity to enhance its current health plan without adding cost or administration. From accidents to catastrophic illness to intensive care to unexpected death, VMN Benefits has the plan to meet your needs. Call VMN Benefits at 201-697-0203 to learn more about supplemental insurance. VMN Benefits, providing peace of mind for your employees.
Some people prefer traditional funeral services. Others prefer cremation. Some want an elaborate ceremony. Others don't want any ceremony at all. Visit Funeral Homes offer all types of services because we know there are all types of people. That's why we specialize in personalized funeral services. To meet the needs of each and every family, call Bishop Quinlan Funeral Homes of Clifton at 973-546-2000 and Bishop Parker Funeral Home of Little Falls at 973-256-4700 for ideas and information on how to plan a service as individual as you are.
Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Our guest today is William Joyce, an Emmy Award winner, author, and creator of numerous characters for various films like Toy Story and A Bug's Life. In addition to being a recognized figure in the world of children's literature and animated films, William's illustrations have appeared numerous times on the cover of The New Yorker, and his paintings are displayed at museums and art galleries across the nation. William's new children's book is entitled The Man in the Moon. William, before break, we were talking about your work, but I'd like to switch gears for a moment now, if we can. In the tri-state area, and in particular the Northeast coast, and not only that, I mean, I don't want to just limit it to that region, but we've been experiencing the devastation of the recent Hurricane Irene. You have started a foundation in the aftermath of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. I'd like to get some information from you. What did you learn through your work with that foundation that people that are now being victims and experiencing this tremendous devastation, that they can take and apply to what they're about to go through?
I can tell you what it was like to be among those who had lost everything and trying to help them myself. I live in Louisiana, and right after Rita and Katrina, my small town suddenly had an influx of 40,000 displaced people who had lost everything. And I grew up, going to New Orleans and loving New Orleans, and still, it's one of my favorite cities in the world. It was heartbreaking on every level, but what I was kind of stunned by was going into the shelters, and there'd be 18,000 people living in, what was, a coliseum for, rodeos and rock performances. And I'd gotten a grant almost within days of the storms to record people's stories and to photograph them, make a portrait of them, because it seemed like this was going to be something important, something that needed to be remembered. So with a team of photographers and oral historians, we sat down with as many people as would sit and talk to us. And these were people, like I said, who had lost everything, overnight. There was a sort of blank look on their faces. It was hard to describe, but as we asked them, just tell us your story. Tell us what happened. And you could start to see a spark of life come back into their eyes. Just telling what happened to them seemed to help ground them a bit. And then as we continued to be in the shelters, there's another thing I noticed, that there were several organizations that were shipping in vast quantities of children's books for the children that were in these shelters. And think about it. You're a kid, and you've lost everything, and you're in a strange place, and you're living in a gigantic room with 18,000 other people that you don't know, with no walls, no real privacy. It's just cots laid out, thousands of cots. And so everything's so uprooted and strange. But I would look over, and there'd be a kid reading one of these books that had been handed out, and completely lost in that book. It was like this cone of silence had descended around them, and they were able to escape from all the uncertainty of their current situation and get lost in this story. And I thought that was very powerful. And so it influenced almost everything I've done since then. It added to The Man in the Moon and to the Guardians of Childhood series in a way that, I feel like stories can change your life, and they can reinforce your life. They can help you find your way. They can give you solace. There's so many things that a book can do, that a story can do, and I'd never experienced that power so vividly before. And so it changed a little bit of how I think about my stories, and it changed the Guardians in a way that I hadn't expected. Mother Goose has become much more of a force in the series. She makes a brief appearance in the Man in the Moon book, but in the novel we start to see her beginnings, the novel that comes out in October. And she's taken on something much more deep and heroic in a way, that next to Santa Claus, she's maybe the most powerful of the Guardians, and that she can bring stories to people, to children, that will help them find their way.
On a personal note, I'd like to take this time to just remind our listeners that we're talking about hurricanes, but in any time of tragedy, to please open your heart, to help your neighbor, volunteer your time, donate items, clothing, money, anything you can do. There are many wonderful organizations out there helping. But even if you just help one person, one family, please open your heart and reach out to your neighbors. The book is The Man in the Moon by William Joyce. Bill, it's been wonderful having you here today. I love the work that you've been involved in. Toy Story is probably my all-time favorite animated film. I mean, being a product of the 60s and 70s, that must have been an amazing project to work on. You know, I'd just like to thank you so much for being here. If our listeners would like more information about William Joyce, you can visit our website, which is cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read our digital magazine, and sign up for our mailing list. William, I hope we have the opportunity to have you come back. Thanks again, Bill.
Thank you.
This is Joan Herman, and Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Thanks for tuning in.